What's up YouTube? This is Bystander X79. Guys, I am coming to you today with my latest deck profile video for the September 2018 ban list. Alright, as you can see, I'm doing odd eyes today. And guys, I really am excited about bringing you this deck profile today. I've been testing this deck for the last 4 months, getting the ratios right, making sure this deck can do what it needs to do to win. And I can tell you this right now. It can fusion, it can synchro, it can exceed, it can link, it will run your opponent into the ground. So, without further ado, we're going to get right into this deck build. And the first card we're going to talk about are the 3 copies of Odd Eye's Pendulum Dragon. Alright, it's Monster Effect. If it battles an opponent's monster, this card inflicts double damage. Plain, simple, doesn't have to be pendulum summoned out, it doesn't have to battle a level 5 or higher monster, it just has to attack an opponent's monster and you get double damage. Alright, now it has 2 pendulum effects. The first one is a continuous effect. Basically, you can reduce damage you take from an attack involving a pendulum monster you control to 0. That's huge. This is not hard once per turn, which means you can use it multiple times during your battle phase and basically protect your life points. Alright, another effect activates during an end phase. You can actually destroy this card that's in your pendulum zone, and then you can add a pendulum monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. Effectively getting you the piece that you need to get into your pendulum zone. Alright. And the reason why that final effect is so important is because of this next monster, which is going to be the 3 copies of Odd Eye's Arc Pendulum Dragon. Okay, so Arc Pendulum Dragon's Pendulum Effect is, if an Odd Eye's card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Odd Eye's monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, and this is only a hard once per turn effect, but still, turning any Odd Eye's card you have on the field into a floater is just simply amazing. Alright, then we have 2 copies of Odd Eye's Persona Dragon. Okay. Monster Effect. Once per turn, target 1 monster on the field that was special summoned from the extra deck and negate its effects until the end of the turn. It's a quick effect, which means you can shut down your opponent's monster effects so easily. Alright, it's Pendulum Effect. Once per turn, during the end phase, if your opponent activated a card or an effect this turn that target just 1 Odd Eye's monster you control while this card, Persona, was in your Pendulum Zone, you can special summon Persona to the field. Alright, and then you can place one Pendulum monster from your face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck into your Pendulum Zone, which is awesome. The only restriction is that you can't use another copy of Persona Dragon. But with a lot of other Pendulum monsters in this deck, that's not going to be really an issue. Alright, next card we got is 2 copies of Odd Eye's Phantom Dragon. Alright, Phantom Dragon. When this Pendulum Summon monster inflicts damage to an opponent by attacking, you can inflict damage to your opponent's life points equal to the number of Odd Eye's cards in your Pendulum Zones times 1200. This, of course, is a hard once per turn. Alright, that was his monster effect. So, do a battle damage, get an extra damage depending on the number of Odd Eye's cards in your Pendulum Zones. Typically you have 2, so this going to be 2400, so that's going to be awesome. That extra damage can help win games. Alright, it's Pendulum Effect. Once per turn, when an attack is declared involving a face-up monster and your opponent's monster, you can, and if you have another Odd Eye's card in your other Pendulum Zone, you can give your monster an extra 1200 attack point boost. So this card is pretty insane. Not only can it put pressure on your opponent by inflicting a lot extra damage, it can actually turn around and actually power boost your own monsters and protect them during whether they're attacked or they're attacking. Alright. Now we have Performapal Odd Eye's Dissolver. Only one of them. Alright, and it's got 2 monster effects. Alright, At the start of a damage step, if your Pendulum Monster battles an opponent's monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, and that monster that's attacking cannot be destroyed by battle. Of course, this is a hard once per turn effect. Alright, its other monster effect. During your main phase, you can fusion summon one fusion monster from your deck using this card you control as a fusion material, as well as other cards you control or in your pendulum zones. So basically, any card that's on your field or in your pendulum zones can become fusion materials to get out of the fusion monster onto the field. Alright, so for its Pendulum Effect, once per turn, you can fusion summon one Dragon Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters in your hand or field as materials. Alright, so this card does have a lot of ways to get fusion summon without having to use polymerization or a fusion spell, but just having this card around is going to be huge. Alright, one copy of that, and then I'm going to be running 2 copies of Odd Eyes, Performapal Odd Eyes Synchron. Alright, monster effects. It's got 3 of them. Alright, if this card is special summoned from the extra deck and is used as a Synchro material, you have to banish it. Okay. When this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 level 3 or lower Performapal or Odd Eyes monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but the special summon monster has its effects negated. Alright, and then this last effect. Once per turn, you can target 1 card in your pendulum zone, special summon it, but it has its effects negated. And then immediately after this effect resolves, you have to Synchro summon 1 Synchro monster using Odd Eyes Synchron here, and the monster you special summon from the pendulum zone as materials. Alright, typically what you want to do is, using that last monster effect, is to bring out Persona and go into clearing Synchro Dragon. Alright, but we're not done yet, because it has an awesome Pendulum Effect. Alright, once per turn, target 1 Performapal or Odd Eyes monster on the field. It becomes a tuner, and its level becomes 1. And I can't tell you how huge that effect is. Because you can turn any of your monsters into tuner monster, level 1 tuner monsters, and then basically build into a level 8 Synchro monster just using other monsters you have in the field, whether it be Clearwing or any other pendulum monsters you control. Awesome effects. I want to run that too because I want to see this card. Alright. Next card. I'm running 3 copies of Performapal You Go Golem. Okay, monster effect. Once per turn, during your main phase, if this card was pendulum summoned this turn, you can fusion summon fusion monsters from your extra deck using this card and a dragon type monster you control as materials. Pretty huge effect. Yeah, it can only be activated after you pendulum summon it, but you know what? It's actually a pretty good card to have. And then once per turn, it's Pendulum Effect. If a monster is fusion summoned to your field, except during a damage step, you can add 1 Performapal, Odd Eyes, or Magician card from your graveyard or face up in your extra deck back to your hand. Alright, so that's actually pretty damn huge because this deck has Performapals, it has Odd Eyes, it does have a Magician card in there, so you'll be getting something back to your hand to be able to use, depending on your situation. Another thing you want to be noticed is also a level 4, so this card's going to be very key and going into your Xyz plays. Alright, and that's not all, that's just because we're also running 3 copies of Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm. Alright, monster effects. If this card is normal special summon, you can add 1 Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. Now that's kind of important because we are running the Supreme King Gates in this deck as well. Alright, if this card is in the graveyard and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card. Alright, each of those effects are hard once per turn, so those are your monster effects. Pendulum Effect. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can place 1 Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck into your Pendulum Zone that you can't Pendulum summon except for Dark Attribute monsters, which is not going to be an issue considering that the majority of your monsters here are all Dark, so Also, it's level 4, so it helps with those rank 4 Xyz plays. Alright, and of course, the Supreme King Gate Infinity. Alright, monster effects. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy it, and then you can special summon one Dragon-type, Xyz, or Pendulum monster from your extra deck. But its attack is 0, its effects are negated. It can't be used for Synchro or Xyz material, but you can use it for fusion or links, so just keep that in mind. Its other monster effect of this card, in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or card effect, you place it in your Pendulum zone, which is pretty much, if you have, pretty cool if you have things. If you have empty spots, typically you won't. Alright, it has 2 Pendulum effects. The first one is if you control a monster, you cannot Pendulum summon. Alright, that's a bit of a downside, but a lot of times you're going to be using this guy when you have no monsters on the field because the scales are so huge. Alright, and the thing about it is that if you control Zark, you gain life points equal to one of your opponent's face-up monsters they control. Alright, that's not bad. Alright, Supreme King Gate 0 is the other Supreme Key Gates that we run in this thing. Its monster effect is very similar to that of Infinity, except you can special summon a fusion or a synchro dragon type monster when you pop this and another card off your field. Again, the monster you summon through this effect can't be used for Synchro or Xyz summons, but Fusion and Links are always an option. Alright, if this card is destroyed by battle, destroyed in monster zone, destroyed by battle or card effect, place this card in your Pendulum zone. So it has those similar monster effects. If you control Zark, you take no damage. Cool. But the one effect that you really want here, this is the Pendulum effect I tend to use the most, is once per turn, if you have the Supreme King Gate Infinity in the other Pendulum zone, destroy that and this card, and then you can search your deck for one Polymerization card or one Fusion spell card. I can't turn around and tell you how huge that is, because this deck gives you the ability to search out Super Poly. Alright, the last monster in this deck is a 3 copies of Mist Valley Apex Avian. Alright, why run 3? Because this right here is a major negator. Alright, basically you target one Mist Valley card you control, which is going to be Apex Avian. You bounce it off the field back to your hand, and then you can negate the activation of the card effect your opponent activated and destroy it. Simple as that. Having multiple copies of this card on the field has multiple negations and really restricts your opponent's plays. Okay, for the spells, we're going to start off with 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Like I said before, the majority of your monsters in this deck are all Dark Attributes, so having this card in this deck is a no-brainer. Alright, next we're going to be running 3 copies of Duelist Alliance. Basically, as long as you have a card in your Pendulum zone, you can activate this card, and you can search out any card that has Pendulum in its name, whether it be monster, spell, or traps. In this deck, we have 6 monsters that have Pendulum in the name. Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon and Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. So those are your targets for this card. Okay, we have 1 copy of Odd Eyes Fusion, because this card can allow you to fusion summon with cards in your extra deck. And you bring out an Odd Eyes Fusion Dragon type monster with it. We have 3 copies of the field spell Sky Iris, because this card actually protects your monster that are in the Pendulum zones from being targeted by card effects. Awesome. And it also allows you to pop a card on the field to basically search another card, which is huge, because then you can actually get a search, and if you have Arc Pendulum in your zones, you can actually get an extra body onto the field. Alright, we run 3 copies of Spiral Flame Strike. Alright, so you can, if you control a Odd Eyes monster, you can turn around and target 1 card on the field and destroy it, so that offers spot removal. Or you could search your deck for an Odd Eyes card added to your hand, or you can take a face-up Odd Eyes monster in your extra deck and add it to your hand. So that's actually pretty cool. Alright, of course I mentioned this before, Super Poly. It is a quick play fusion spell, which means you can fusion summon on your opponent's turn, discard one card as a cost, get a monster onto the field, and just basically help get that board a little bit better. Just imagine bringing out Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon on your opponent's turn. You can then just bounce one of your opponent's cards off the field. And this card can't be negated either, so... And of course, 2 copies of Terraforming because you want to see your field spell. Okay, for the extra deck. Now, I mentioned this particular card when I was talking about Super Poly before. This is Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon. It takes 1 Odd Eyes monster and 1 Pendulum monster to fusion summon it. And basically, whenever this card is special summon, you can target one of your opponent's monsters on the field and bounce it back to the hand. So this is great for getting off that one problematic monster off that field. Alright. If your opponent activates a spell or trap, you can shuffle 1 face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck back to your main deck in order to negate the activation of that spell or trap. Another cool thing, both of these effects are hard once per turns. Yes, that is correct. In the past, Konami made an extra deck dragon monster that has 2 effects, and both effects have a hard once per turn on it. Next card up is Performapal Gatling Ghoul. You basically take 1 Performapal monster and 1 level 5 or higher Dark Attribute monster. Fusion together, you get this guy. When this guy is fusion summoned onto the field, you hit your opponent with damage equal to the number of cards on the field times 200. And if you use the Pendulum monster, you can destroy one of your opponent's cards and hit them with damage equal to that destroyed monster's original attack. So just summoning this card to the field can help you win duels. Alright, then you have Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. This requires 2 Dark Attribute monsters that are on the field. You can't use tokens. Okay. When this card is special summon, you target one of your opponent's special summon monsters, and Starving Venom will gain attack equal to that monster's attack. Okay. You could also then target one of your opponent's cards on the field. This card's name and effect becomes that card's name and effect. And basically you can then utilize those effects for your own during the course of your turn. Synchros. Alright, talked about this with Odd Eyes Synchron, using Persona to get the Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. Basically, whenever a level 5 or higher monster activates an effect, you can negate it and destroy it, and then alright, during either player's turn, when a monster's effect is activated that targets just 1 level 5 or higher monster on the field, you can negate that effect, destroy it, and this card gains attack equal to that monster's attack. Pretty cool. Alright. Crystal Wing is another card. The way to do this is basically using Odd Eyes Synchron's Pendulum Effect. You turn a monster into level 1 and you sync it with Crystal Wing to bring him out, and basically he's just a tougher version of Clear Wing. Basically he can negate any monster effect, and if he battles a high level monster, he gets the power boost and be able to by adding its attack to its own and be able to run it over. So that's that. I also run Ignister in this deck. Basically 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner Pendulum monsters, which is pretty awesome. Okay, it's level 8, so you have to use Odd Eyes Synchron effect again to do this. But once per turn, you can target 1 Pendulum monster on the field and 1 card in your Pendulum Zone, or 1 card in your Pendulum Zone and destroy it. And if you do, shuffle 1 card on the field back into the deck. So this card is actually pretty good because it can feed into utilizing Heavy Metal Foe's Electrobite's effect. If you pop one of your scales, you can turn around and basically get a draw off of that. If you have Arc Pendulum in the other zone, you get another monster on the field because of it. So there's a lot of things that can happen with this one thing. And even better is that you can actually then spin a card off your opponent's field back to their deck. So, huge effects in this one card. And of course I run Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. Again, using Odd Eye Synchros Pendulum Effect to get this guy out, but when it's Synchro Summon, you can do basically, it's a basic board wipe, destroys all your opponent's cards. If it battles your opponent's monster before damage calculation, it destroys that monster, and then it hits your opponents with effect damage equal to that monster, that destroyed monster's original attack, which is awesome. And then, of course, if this card's in the graveyard, you can actually tribute 2 Supreme King monsters that you have on the field to special summon this card back to the field. Alright. Rank 4 plays Abyss Dweller because Danger, Dark World, and Thunder Dragons are a thing, and this shutting them down by doing this is just awesome. Evil Swarm Excite Knight. Okay, it's decided that it's off the list because it can blow your opponent's field, but your opponent has to have more cards in their hand and on the field than you do. Just be careful of that. Alright? But if you made that requirement, you can just blow their field and just take control of the duel from there. Alright? Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion. I actually really like this card better than the original Dark Rebellion. Primarily because this card's effect activates during damage calculation, which means since it affects a monster's attack, you can detach a material from it, bottom out your opponent's monster's attack to 0. It gains that monster's attack, and then you just crush your opponent with a massive amount of damage. Alright, its other effect can activate during the battle phase, where you can actually just tribute this card and special summon out to Supreme King cards in defense mode. I mean, it would have been better if those Supreme King cards could come back in attack mode. This way you get at least a couple of attacks with Dark Worms, but to be fair, that's not bad. Alright, rank 7 plays. Number 11, Big Eye. Basically, you take control of one of your opponent's monsters and then you just link it off. That's why he's here. And then, of course, Odd Eye's Absolute Dragon. Alright, when a player's monster declares an attack, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, negate the attack. Awesome. And then you can special summon 1 Odd Eyes monsters from your hand or graveyard. If this Xyz summon card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon out 1 Odd Eyes monster from your deck, except for from your extra deck, except for Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, which means you'd be able to actually extend into Vortex and do other things as well. Awesome card to have in this deck. Alright, Lynx, Heavy Metal Electromite, because this is a Pendulum deck and you need to be running this card in any Pendulum decks. Lynx, summon it, add a Pendulum monster face up from your main deck to your extra deck. You can destroy one of your cards on it that you control to add a face up Pendulum monster from your extra deck back to your hand, and if one of your scales happens to leave the field, you get to draw a card. So this does open up a lot of different plays. And it has great zones pointing down to the corners. 1 copy of Wee Witch's Apprentice, because the majority of this deck is dark. Power boosts all your monsters up by 500 attack and defense. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you get 1 Dark Tribute monster back from your graveyard to your hand. And last but not least, Boral Soul Dragon. It needs to be in there because it just helps push for that extra OTK potential, because you can slash your opponent's attack in half, add it to its own, and then that's for the rest of the turn, and then you can put a monster into defense position to have it swing again for huge damage. Alright guys, this is it for my Odd Eyes deck profile for the September 2018 ban list. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, make sure to subscribe. Enable notifications so you don't miss a single upload. Guys, make sure to check out my discussion tab on my homepage. Got a fundraiser going on for the Children's Miracle Hospital Network. Link and what I'm doing is all there. Please, I'll have the link down in the description box as well. Please make a donation, save a life. Until next time, guys, peace.